I feel so weird punching you.
Guys. All right, let us sit down.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
This is the Witches Magic Murder and Mystery Podcast.
And I'm Kara.
I'm Megan.
Hey.
Here's the exciting thing.
Here's the thing.
Kara got this package in the mail.
Unmarked.
If you're on the Patreon, you've already heard about it. Yeah, it was
I immediately thought anthrax, SARS,
ransom note.
ransom note bombs,
Unmarked.
shrapnel.
I mean, really, the fact that whoever it was that sent it didn't put any identifying information on it just like plays right into the beauty
Of what it is.
of the contents. Yeah. So, it's emu feathers.
So good.
It's so good.
So good.
It's like, so one of our episodes early on, I mean, it's several back. It's bone pointing.
bone pointing.
And the warriors in that episode, wore emu feathers.
They
as
wore
part of their-
shoes made out of tar and emu feathers, didn't they?
I think so.
These
And
emu
so-
feathers are tiny. Like, how many naked emus were running around?
So many.
So many.
So many.
Naked emus.
Naked emus. Naked Emus was the name of my band in high school.
Love it. The naked
The Naked Emus.
What was it? Ostrodactyl?
Ostrodactyl.
Pterodactyls. I mean, they look like giant. No. Velociraptor.
Ostriches.
Velociraptor.
Listen.
I don't.
We made this joke on Patreon,
I can't remember.
and it went well.
ADHD in the house.
Kara just learned today that she has ADHD.
I did.
And I told her, I was like, oh God, what if now?
I'm not as funny.
Not that, you'll always be funny. But what if you don't go off on tangents? Or what if I go off on tangents and you're like, Megan, focus.
Focus. We're here doing.
And I'll be like, who
podcast.
are you?
No, I still think that's.
And then
important.
like all of our reviews would change. They'd be like, they're great. They never go off on tangents.
They never go off on tangents. They don't giggle as much anymore. No, I think that's just a part of me.
All of a
and
sudden, we
it's
have like a super serious podcast. You get medicated,
quantum
all of a sudden
physics.
we're like, yes. So today we're being grown-ups.
That's
Hey,
not possible.
we're 2 minutes in. This is the Witches. Did we already say it?
I'm Kara.
Witches Magic Murder.
Even
We did, because
We
we
did.
already did the Megan Kara thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, point being, I also think now I have ADHD.
Yeah.
Just because Kara does.
I went ahead and took her through the list. Guys, don't worry. It's
Every
like-
question that she had for Kara, I was like, you mean
That's
that's
not
not how normal people?
Hmm.
What are you talking about?
Man. This is gonna be a wild ride.
I don't care. I don't want
Wild.
to be diagnosed. I'm going to stay like this.
Wild medicated ride.
You're going to be
What if
medicated.
we're
I'll drive you
still
crazy.
like this, but then like hyper focused and functioning on things? That's gonna be me. I'm already saying it. I think it's gonna be great. It's gonna be lovely. We're so good at this.
If there's a huge change in the tone of the podcast,
I'll stop taking my medicine.
These are the
sake
priorities.
of the podcast.
Your mental health
Don't worry about it.
podcast.
Listen, I've functioned for 34 years without it. I will continue to function. No, I think it's gonna be great.
I'm just going to keep drinking my Sonic on the recording. We're not sponsored by Sonic, but maybe we should be.
Heyo.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag Sonic.
I've got an episode.
Yeah. I've got a side piece.
I've got a... Do you?
People would like for it to be you. I just talked about that.
We were joking about how sometimes I'm sure when you all listen to this podcast, you're like, are they a couple? Like,
I was
I
telling
can never
Megan
decide
that
how
I
much
got-
they're joking.
I got us this couples how well do you know each other game. And I was like, that would be a fun Patreon video because we do know each other pretty well.
We should do that one
Yeah,
for this month's Patreon video
we
because it'd be fun just to do.
we should.
But yeah, we were like, if we do the how well do you know your significant other, people will be like, yes, I knew it. I knew they were dating.
Yeah, I was telling my oldest daughter about it, and she was like, "Oh, people are gonna be so excited,
So happy.
so happy."
Megan and Karen, we're so happy for you. You finally admit it. We know we're in love, you guys.
It's fine, guys. It's fine.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yep.
for the story.
Mm-hmm.
How long? 5 minutes in.
You're so welcome.
It was one of our longer tangents. There was a lot there.
We had a lot going on.
Okay. All right. Okay. This story was sent in by one of our listeners. His name's Paul.
Hey, Paul.
And he emailed us and said, "Hi, I know that you predominantly do stories about the U.S., but as a listener from Scotland..."
Okay, Paul, you have to send us a voice memo. I can't. Scotland accents are the best.
Go to Anchor, look us up. You can leave
Yeah.
us a voicemail, but you have to say that your name is Rachel. That's like
that's
just how it goes.
You cannot leave us a voice message if your name does not start with Rachel.
I thought you might be interested, as a listener from Scotland, I thought you might be interested in the story of Bessie Dunlop. She was a witch from Dalry in Ayrshire, which is the town.
I need for you to say these in Scottish accents.
I can't speak in any accent but this one.
Oh, then we need to play that accent game where you read a phrase in an accent.
I really can't.
My mind goes blank when I play that game.
I can't do accents. I just sound like a Kentuckian trying to do an accent.
It's gonna be so good.
So she was a witch from Dalry in Ayrshire, which is the town my wife was born in.
Oh.
And then he told more about her story, but as usual, I'm not going to read you that
Right.
part because I'm about to tell you the story.
Yeah.
But Paul, thank you
Yes.
for sending this in.
Yeah, Paul.
I love all the witch stories. As you guys know, they are some of my favorites. And we've learned about so many amazing women through these stories.
Yeah,
And
shout
but a
out
lot
to
of
your
them-
wife for growing up
Oh,
in this town.
Yeah. So the whole thing about like, there's still kind of formulaic, right? About these women. Like I was talking about this on the way to record to you today. Because I was like, it's interesting to me how so many of these women who we do episodes about witches, they're just natural healers. They,
Right.
you know what I mean? And they
Just
live outside the norm. And,
Beyond their time.
and then a neighbor or somebody says they dance with the devil and ride naked on the
And their name's
broomstick.
Janet.
And they've made all my cows go dry or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they die.
And now
So-
it's a sandstorm.
So this one is a little different, which is, I like it.
Oh,
Okay. So, hang on. All right. I was trying to figure out like what,
where am I?
I think it's for some reason I have this whole section that's out of order.
Oh.
We're going to take a little quick pause.
Pause.
The tube. Hey, YouTube. I think this one is not supposed to be here. It's supposed to be later. Hang on. I don't know why I wrote that there. Okay. And here.
Find it. Words.
I'm not. See why we're in love? It's great. Okay. Time in.
All right. In the middle of you doing that, I just read my side piece. Without you
Just
paying paying any attention.
We
to me.
decided. No, it's Tuesday's episode. All right. You know I love a good witch story. And I particularly like this one because it doesn't play out like the others. Here goes. All right. The Wikipedia entry starts off by calling her 3 different names.
Oh.
Bessie Dunlop, Elizabeth Dunlop, or Elizabeth Jack.
Oh.
And then it says she lived in Lynn, or Lynn, all spelled differently. It's like Lynn, Lyne, Lin, Linn. And I read that and I was like, oh, they don't know how to say it or spell it either. Like it feels like home.
So good.
It's
Feels
like
so
home.
good.
That's good. I
Yeah.
like it here. Okay. She's most commonly known as Bessie Dunlop, and it seems like the hamlet she lived in was most commonly spelled Lynn, Lynn.
Okay.
So we're going with that.
Perfect.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay, so Bessie
Yep.
was the wife of Andrew Jack,
Okay.
a farmer in Lynn.
Mhm.
And it seems like they had a small family farm based on accounts of her driving cattle, working with sheep, and going with her husband to collect animal feed.
I feel all the witchy people were farmers.
My alarm went off, you guys.
So sorry.
The alarm on my clock.
But you know what? That makes you all know that we're just humans.
That means it's 2:00 is what it also means. We're human and it's 2:00.
Not humanoids.
Okay. So yeah, a lot of these women did, like, they lived off the
Farmers,
land.
yeah.
I think that all kind of played into their like openness to outside, like natural medicine and living outside the norm and things like that. Okay, so it's possible that her husband was the miller at one of the local mills.
Okay.
She was called the good wife, which is like all one word, good wife, which apparently is a title that is one step down from a laird. And if she was a miller's wife, that would explain why she had the title of good wife.
Oh. I don't know.
Never heard of it, but I get it. Okay.
I want a title.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Queen of the Witches.
Perfect.
All right. So we're talking about the 1500s here. So a whole lot of these details are just deductions we make based on other people's accounts.
Hearsay.
Rather than having a lot of direct records about Bessie's life. So the reason we're talking about this farmer's wife who lived in the 1500s is because on November 8th, 1576, Bessie Dunlop appeared in the High Court of Edinburgh.
Edinburgh.
That's better. Accused of sorcery, witchcraft, and incantation, with invocations of spirits of the devil, continuing in familiarity with them at all such times as she thought expedient, dealing with charms, and jinxing the people with devilish craft of sorcery aforesaid. This was 13 years after Scotland had passed the Witchcraft Act, which made the practice of witchcraft and the consulting of witches capital offenses.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. So Bessie was what was known as a skeely wife.
I know those kinds.
Meaning one who relied on old superstitions, traditional folk medicine, and charms for helping both people and animals.
She was a powwower.
Yeah. She was a local healer and a midwife with a lot of knowledge about the medicinal properties of herbs and plants. So I'm pretty sure, like every other witch story we've told here, this is a woman who was intelligent.
Right.
And she used natural healing methods to serve her community.
Okay.
People went to her when they needed help. And based on her reputation, she must have been like successful in healing and in her giving people advice and things like that. And isn't it also interesting? She was a midwife. And I feel like so many of these witches that we talk about were practicing midwives.
Yeah.
So back in those days, you know, as we've said before, you just weren't allowed to be different, especially if you're a woman. I mean, you're barely allowed to be different now, but at least it's a little bit better.
Right.
So being a woman,
you're not stoned to death.
right. Being a woman who like lives outside the norm, back then it put you at risk, even if you weren't doing anything to hurt anyone. So Bessie got into trouble. Hang on.
Sweet little Bessie.
Little Bessie. She got into trouble because a man named William Kyle had come to her because his friend Hugh Scott had a cloak that was stolen. So he promised to be discreet about Bessie's involvement because, again, it's capital offense.
Right.
So before she's going to help him, she's like, I need you to, you know, she's got to make sure she's protected.
Yeah.
So he promised to be discreet about it. And then Bessie told William that the thief was a woman named Mally, M-A. It's Molly, but with an A. Boyd. But that she had almost immediately made the cloak into a kirtle, which I looked it up. It was not very exciting. It's just a garment worn by men and women in the Middle Ages. Yeah. It kind of looks like an apron, sort of.
Yeah.
And so because she had taken that cloak and turned it into something else, it's like they would never be able to get the cloak back, even if they know it was her that did it, right?
Oh.
So apparently William was angry because he wasn't able to recover the cloak for Mr. Scott. And he dealt with that anger by having Bessie arrested.
Oh.
And I don't know why it was her fault, but whatever.
Jeez.
Yeah.
William.
So Bessie was an acquaintance of James Blair, an influential member of the community. So because of that acquaintance with him, he was able to have her released.
Oh.
So she went to jail, but then she was released.
Yeah.
Still, that initial arrest set off a chain of events that ended with Bessie being arrested again.
Oh my gosh.
And taken to Edinburgh, where she was tortured by hanging her by her thumbs, holding her soles of her feet to fire, and burning them until she wouldst confess.
Thou wouldst confess.
I mean, this is the whole thing that we've talked about before, where it's like, by the time you find yourself on trial for witchcraft,
Right. It's over.
you're screwed. There's nothing you can do.
Mm-mm. They've already formed that opinion of you.
Who was the guy that you did?
Giles Corey.
Yeah. Where it's like, he was
Was it
super,
Corey? I think it was. Yeah.
something Giles.
Mhm.
Corey Giles or Giles
Something,
Corey.
yeah.
He was very into the like witches trials as a form of entertainment.
Yeah.
Until he found himself on trial. It's like, you know what, guys?
I don't think this is the thing anymore. Like, he even said his wife was one
this
because she
seems
was being
wrong.
hateful.
Yeah, you know what? This seems unfair.
This
I don't
is right. And
don't
yet he
like
was
it.
literally stoned.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. If you guys haven't heard the Giles
Yeah.
Corey episode. It's recent, too. It's
Yeah.
a recent one. Okay, so isn't it interesting when you read about the things they did to her? Hanging her by her thumbs.
Like, I'm double jointed and, like, can pop that. No, why?
I don't know.
Like, where would it be here?
Hang. I'm trying to, like, hang myself on the edge of the desk with my thumbs.
Or
hurt?
do they tie something around you're just holding your...
Oh, I'd hate that.
Like, wouldn't that eventually, like, break and you're
Yes,
just, like...
you would think so. Something would be very uncomfortable.
And then, like, how tight is it? Because then that's going to cut off circulation. You're just going to lose your thumbs at some point.
So, and then holding the soles of her feet to fire until she would confess. Like, when you read that, it's like, who's the evil one here?
Yeah.
Like, in the name of destroying witches, these people would do really awful things to other human beings. And you just wonder how much self-awareness they had about that.
Right.
Like, it's really like
when
do
they
you
would hold
understand?
them
Like,
underwater
you're
and
the
stuff?
bad
Yeah.
guy here? So anyway, they stripped her, searching for the devil's mark, which is just a birthmark, but they didn't find one. And they tortured her until she confessed. So she did confess.
Right.
But again, how much of that is just because they made
She's
her?
over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because again, it's like you already know you're screwed. So why continue letting yourself be tortured? You're not going to get, once you're on trial, you're just...
Yeah, you're stuck.
So she told the court that she had been visited by the Queen of the Fairies
Had she?
while she was giving birth,
Oh.
which sounds like a way better birth experience than I had. I didn't get it visited by... No.
I got a man with Arby's that made me puke.
So Bessie, in the middle of giving birth, the Queen of the Fairies shows up, but she's disguised as an elderly woman. So it's not like Bessie knew it at the time. So she shows up and she's like, I see, like you're in the middle of something, like you seem a little busy with your like literal labor.
Yeah.
But I need a drink of water, like right now. Like I can't wait. And Bessie's like, this is just any random old lady showing up. I'm got a baby.
Yeah.
I'm just going to push it back and go get you some water.
Oh my gosh. Just like run up. Like.
Okay, so Bessie was like, okay, I'm gonna go get her some water then, because she asked for it, because Bessie's a nice little person.
Oh,
So in return for her kindness, the queen promised Bessie a familiar who would wait upon her.
Oh.
So shortly after, Bessie met her familiar as she was walking down the road to where she kept her cows. He was a man named Thomas Reed. I totally expected it to be an animal. Yeah. But
I for sure saw a cat.
he was a man named Thomas Reed, a former barony officer who had died at the Battle of Pinky Cleave.
Claw.
Paul, if you're listening, I'm so
Please tell us what this
so
is.
sorry. In 1547. He looked like a respectable old man with a gray beard, a gray coat and pants, white stockings gartered above the knee, and a black bonnet on his head. He carried a white wand in his hand. It just makes me think of the White Rabbit.
Oh, okay.
Or he's Gandalf.
Oh.
Yours is way better. The day Bessie met Tom, her most valuable cow had just died, and her husband and child were sick. Tom told her that the child would die as well as 2 of the sheep, but her husband would recover, and then he disappeared. Sadly, his predictions turned out to be true. The next time Bessie saw Tom, he offered to give her more horses and cows if she would denounce Christianity, and Bessie refused, and Tom got real upset about it, and then he disappeared. Later, Bessie was visited again by Tom, along with 8 women and 4 men. They were all dressed very, nicely. And Tom told Bessie that these were the good whites, Wights, which is apparently just another word for, fairy or sprite,
Oh.
of the fairy court. And they had come to invite Bessie to join them, leave the mortal world behind, come live with us, and join the fairy court.
Oh.
Bessie declined. Because she liked her life.
Yeah.
She liked her little life. And the members of the fairy court angrily departed in a, quote, hideous, ugly blast of wind.
There's
Ugly.
gust of
Like
wind.
an ugly.
It's got dirt and debris in it.
Yeah, you look at wind sometimes, you're like,
Oh, you're so ugly. You're not Gale from Frozen 2. Gale?
that's some ugly wind. Pretty wind, though. Look at that pretty
Look
wind.
at that. Look at
So cute.
So good.
How much noise is this chair going to make?
What's happening? I think it's because it's against the wall. There it is.
We're going to have to redo that whole thing. Listen, wind is not
It's not ugly.
ugly,
No.
but apparently this one was. It was hideous.
So gross. Debris.
Disgusting. Like you see that wind, you're like,
Bugs in it. That worm farmer lost all his worms to that. Are you making fun of farmers?
are you making fun of farmers?
Are you telling me there's
You're making
farmers
fun
out
of
there
farmers.
that you done made fun of?
Uh-huh. So
So-
they departed.
In a nasty gas.
Gross, disgusting
Ghastly
wind.
Ghastly wind.
And they left Bessie lying sick on the ground.
Oh, God. All of a sudden she's sick?
Well, it was that nasty wind. Karen.
Oh, it got all up in her lungs.
Tom begged her to join him on the fairy court, and Bessie was like, no, I don't want to leave my life I've got here.
Uh-oh.
So he left.
Oh, Tom.
According to Bessie's confession, Tom is the one who trained her to make and use ointments and tinctures to heal people and animals. He would tell her the locations of lost and or stolen items, and he also gave her some green lace that she could wrap around the left arm of any woman in labor, and it would give them pain relief and guarantee an easier delivery.
What?
I know. Where is that?
Who-
We get some of that.
Who did she pass that down to?
So-
Where are these
Yeah,
sprites?
where's this green lace?
Yeah, what?
So some people think now that Thomas Reed was actually a human being,
Okay.
like a real person, not a ghost.
Okay.
They think he was a Catholic priest in hiding due to the new Protestant regime at the time. So the way he talked to her and some of the language he used seemed priest-like.
Oh.
And he had expressed an opinion that the Reformation was not good. The Reformation was a religious reform movement that swept through Europe in the 1500s, and it resulted in the creation of a branch of Christianity called Protestantism.
Protestantism.
Why is it a hard word to say?
That's
But, before this, the Catholic Church had all the
Right.
power. And then suddenly the Reformation happened and it took away some of the power of the Catholic Church. So it might explain why he felt the need to go in hiding. The scene of their first meeting that Bessie described was a former property of the abbots of Kilwinning Abbey, which may have been a place he knew of and felt comfortable hiding if he was a Catholic priest.
Oh.
In addition to all of that, according to Bessie's confessions, Thomas was able to physically hold objects and tug on her apron. Like, I guess when he was begging her to go with him, he kind of tugged on her apron, which doesn't seem like ghostly behavior. And she had also witnessed him walking down the street in Edinburgh during the day, just like a regular mortal. For what it's worth, Thomas Reed's death at the Battle of Pinkie is unconfirmed.
Oh, okay.
So we don't know
Right.
what that was.
Yeah.
So she knew Tom for about 4 years before she found herself in court accused of witchcraft. People from all over consulted Bessie.
Mm-hmm.
Betty's not
Betty White. She may be.
People from all over consult
Very.
Betty White when they need.
I would.
I would too. She knows everything.
She does.
But also in relation to this story that we're talking about right now,
Bessie.
people from all over consulted Bessie when they needed help, whether it was due to sickness or needing to know the whereabouts of something that had been stolen. She does not seem to have benefited financially from the help that she gave people,
Okay.
although gifts of food are noted, such as a peck of meal and some cheese. So that's what they would pay her with food.
Okay, well, that's what
If
people
anything.
pay fairies with.
Yeah. So she became well known for her good deeds and was never accused of any kind of witchcraft that harmed anyone.
Okay.
So that's the difference in Bessie's story. She wasn't turned in for witchcraft because she'd hurt somebody. No one actually had anything bad to say about her.
Right.
No one came to her defense either. They were all too afraid of what might happen to them if they did, because remember, that Witchcraft Act made it a capital offense to even consult with witches.
Oh.
Regardless, the response to Bessie's confession was all either neutral or positive.
Mm-hmm.
Before she was arrested, Bessie had asked Tom if anything would happen to her because of her association with him, and he told her that she would be accused of witchcraft, but he said that her neighbors would speak well of her and no evil would come to her. Of course, he was wrong about that.
Oh, no.
Bessie had various clients from the aristocracy and merchant class, none of whom came to her assistance at her trial. But again,
you're going to get
if they did,
trouble.
they would have been in trouble too. So even though the court continued to torture Bessie, her story never changed. There was no mention of pacts with the devil, dancing in churches, cattle charming, or any of the other trademarks found in the confessions of witches back in the day.
Okay.
Still, even though Bessie had done only good deeds for her community and never harmed anyone, she was found guilty of witchcraft and sentenced to be strangled and then burned at the stake. Her admission to the use of a familiar spirit and her association with the fairies were the main cause of her conviction and her death sentence. Bessie Dunlop was one of 4,000 people in Scotland to be formally accused of witchcraft between the 16th and 18th centuries. It's estimated that over 1,500 people had been executed in Scotland by the time the Scottish Witchcraft Act of 1563 was repealed in 1736.
Oh my gosh.
Like 100 and...
Wow.
170 years. Right? Math. God, I love math so much. Yeah, because it would 30s. Yep, that's okay. Bring me up. Okay. The last part of Paul's email said this. As an aside, during last summer, the local area set up a fairy trail in the area that Bessie used to live. And on the trail, there was a bench dedicated to Bessie Dunlop.
Oh.
Also in Dalry, there is a street named after her that is now the site of the old primary school that is used to house the elderly. Thought that the story might interest you, as there is almost a rehabilitation of a local witch and that she wasn't accused of doing bad things to people. And you're correct.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like as I read the story, I kept expecting for it to be like, and so she went on with her life and lived to be an old lady and continued helping people. And so the fact that even when she was sentenced, I thought, yeah, but they won't kill her.
Right. She was good. She was a good lady.
And everybody universally agreed. Like nobody said anything bad about her.
She was not using her powers for evil.
Yeah.
Paul,
she was helping
If y'all go home for the holidays to your wife's family's place, I'm going to need some pictures to be sent to us of this scene here.
I just can't. I just hate it.
I know.
I hate that, like, all she was doing really is performing natural medicine. I think the problem is that she mentioned Tom. And so the idea that Tom might have actually just been a
priest,
regular human being is like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know? So, because the thing is, when she met Tom, he's the one that told her the fairy queen visit. Because whenever she was visited by the elderly lady, she didn't know it was the queen of fairies. Even after it was over, she learned that from Tom.
I mean, which could have been like a nun, a priest.
It could have been anything. Yeah. Or even in conversation, she could have mentioned the lady and he's like, oh yeah, that was the queen of the fairy. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
So it is really something to think that, like,
or they were studying natural medicine too, and they had noticed her and they were like, we want her on our side. We're going to send you first to see if she's actually like worthy of this position. Yeah.
I just hate it. Because if he wasn't a familiar, if he wasn't a spirit and he was just a person, then that removes that part of it as far as why they found her guilty. And it's just, all she was doing was helping people. She was
just being a cool lady.
She seemed like a good person.
Dang it.
Yeah. So anyway, Thank you for sending that in.
Yes, we love it so much.
If any of you have any stories you would like to send us, you can send them to us at witchesmagicmurdermystery@gmail.com.
Yep. And you can hit us up on our Facebook page, the Witches, Magic, Murder, and Mystery podcast discussion group, or our Instagram has a link to pretty much anything and everything you can find on us.
And if you can look in the show notes of this episode, wherever you're listening to podcasts, it will have all the links to everything in there that you want to find.
Yep.
So thank you all so much for listening.
Love you all so much.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.